Greetings, Church. It's Kevin Duclairon. I'm at PSU right now. It is 11:51 a.m. Friday the 21st, I believe. I can't remember if it's Thursday or Friday. I think we're on Friday. Anyway, I'm at the PSU Student Union, and there's hardly nobody here except for a couple of people just sitting and playing with their computers. I'm going to eat lunch here real quick. I was planning on going to Powell's, but I figured I have a plug here. Powell's took out all their plugs. PSU has plugs, so I'm going to sit here for a few minutes and talk to you guys and bring you up to date with what's going on. I'm getting hit like crazy, the norm. For the last, I guess for the entire week, I've just been hit. About an hour ago, I was in the police department talking to behind the front desk and trying to file a police report. I got hit yesterday for preaching the gospel in front of the Pioneer Square Mall, and spoke to the American people. Hold on. I basically was talking to them about this. What has God put on your plate to deal with as a former master's seminary student in the 21st century? Okay. You can see all my answers there. Basically, spirit of evil, salvation, sin, Satan, sinners, the Holy Spirit, and the Savior. I wrote this down on the 20th. You can see that. And I spoke to them. I woke up about, on the 20th, I woke up, which was yesterday morning. And after I had been assaulted at I forgot the name of the place that we're staying at. I'm staying at. It's Walnut Park. There it is. Walnut Park Shelter for men and women and couples who are homeless. Staying there, and this is one of their cups. This is one of their plates. This is one of their soups. All right. So, it's a decent place where you can lay down and go to sleep and eat some food, drink some coffee, drink some tea. This is their tea. All right. So, as far as the shelter is concerned, it's fine, but everything that I dealt with at the Gretchen Kafora Commons, West Shore Apartments, Grand Oaks, Wilshire Apartment, is now on that property, unfortunately. MacArthur's on the property, Franklin is on the property, the gays are out on the property, and everything that comes with them. So, every time I close my eyes, I'm getting hit. They're sucking it, they're piercing, the feet are, my feet are in excruciating pain, both of my feet. My inner thigh is in pain. My shoulder blade is in pain. Like even doing this hurts here. It hurts back here. This morning they cut. I don't know if you can see the cut. You probably can't see the cut. See the cut right there? Right there. That's a cut. That's a little cut right there. And it was bleeding at 24 hours. I didn't even know I was cut. I was in so much pain. So, apart from what they're doing there, I can't move any forward. It's like a wall. So I can't go back to housing because what they're doing at the shelter, they're doing in the housing. What they're doing in the housing, they're doing in the streets, pretty much everywhere. So I told the police what was going on. And basically I walked away with no police report. This is the guy that, so I've been in and out of there all week long. This is the officer that they told me to report to. Kemmer, right? That's the name. That's the officer they told me to report to. They also told me that I have three other officers that I'm also dealing with. This Officer Kemmer here apparently works together with Cindy, and Cindy is a double of a Gabriel Franklin slash, I guess, the Queen. I don't know. These people in their community are they're representatives of representatives of representatives, and so I don't really know what's going on in there. Anyway, I didn't get anywhere this morning with just talking to them at the front desk or non-emergency. I told them who the three other officers I'm dealing with is Hoppener, right there, and Barassa and Dunlap. Okay, and what was told to me is that they represent three different groups of the government that's running the country. Dunlap represents the Native American Indians, Barassa, the Queen, and the British clan, and Hoppener, the presidency, because she's a blonde, she's really tall, and she's got the the ponytail like the bigwigs. So I spoke to the front desk clerk and I told him this is what I was told about those officers. So as a result of those three and now Kimmer, I'm not going to get anything done. Okay, in other words, I'm not going to get any kind of support or any kind of help because those people are all against. Apparently they're hiring people. TPI is hiring people, and I don't know if it's TPI itself, Transition Projects, or if it's the government switching workers in, and removing the real workers and putting in their own representatives to deal with me on the issues, insubordination. And so I'm still dealing with I believe I'm still dealing with the Clinton administration and the president's administrations that brought me down, which was, I think, was Clinton, and then it was passed on to Obama and Bush. So I'm not exactly sure which of the three administration is sitting there still judging me, because it's open sex, right? It's where I want to show you something here. This is the PSU. This is like the lounge for the students. I want to show you something. Now, look at the lounge. Don't ignore the people, but look at the lounge. See the lounge there? Okay, exactly as the lounge is here. You saw the tables. That's exactly what it's like there at Walnut Park. Okay, they have an open lounge with round tables. Now, behind that is the sleeping room. Once you go through the sleeping room, it's all set up. Okay, the way you got single women, couples, and then single men. I can't go into the section where there's there's single women and there's couples, but you can hear Gabriel on either on an intercom or in a distance. Okay, I was sleeping in the living room area, blacked out. She would come out and give me oral sex, and this is in front of the workers. This is in front of the homeless. This is in front, I believe, in front of the police department. And so whoever the police officer is that's escorting her is allowing her to do it. Okay, and I don't think she's alone. I think it's one of those officers that I've named here. So it's one of them. It's either probably one of the female officers that's escorting her, a female and a male. I don't know which one. The male is probably standing with MacArthur, and the female is standing with her. And so with the two police officers, they can get into anywhere. That means shelters, apartment complexes. Even if I'm sleeping in the streets, they can pretty much approach my body and do whatever, to hit. So they didn't agree with this sermon here, right? Because with it came, I explained to them that I was a former master's seminary student, and these are the seminaries that I had written down. I was trying to deal with the issue on this level, right? This is the Bible study schools, education. This is one of the reasons why they were judging this right here. Okay. Let's see, Bob Jones University, where MacArthur was removed. Talbot Seminary, where MacArthur graduated. Master's Seminary, where I attended from '96 to '98. Western Reformed Seminary, 2000, and Multnomah Seminary, where I got books, and Western Seminary, where I also applied and could only get books. So I wrote down the curriculum. You can see at the bottom there. That's the curriculum. And then when you flip it open, now I didn't hand this to the staff, and I didn't hand this to the homeless, but this is pretty much what I dealt with. This is what as a result of my association with these seminaries, okay, mainly Master Seminary, this is not only with the curriculum, but this is what I've been doing. Okay? So, it's an extensive list, you know. Um, Suffering and loss, teaching, persecution, opposition, faith, trust, truth, testing, examples, continuation, evangelism, work, rejection, sin, sinners, snakes, Satan, salvation, Holy Spirit, Trinity, understanding, knowledge, sickness, pain, betrayal, business, poverty, sex, immorality, family, evil, failure, voices, society, unbelieving community, offenses, government, Sodom and Gomorrah, tiredness and fatigue, manipulation, control, homelessness, homosexuality, begging, fundraising, unfinished work. A lot of my work is unfinished. Like I'll start something and I can't complete it because MacArthur sabotages either the flash drive or he sabotages the computer and I can't complete the work. Godlessness, let's see, godliness, prayer, preaching, unbelief, cultural issues, historical issues, adultery, freedom, sodomy, justice, sanctification. I mean, just a whole list of stuff that I've just been, you know, dumped on, you know, for the last 20 years. And so I wrote it, and I sat down and wrote this down. They got ticked off, and they decided to judge. So they judged, and I couldn't do anything about it. Instead, I ended up doing this. Start talking about. I drew this. This is kind of a dealing with the same issue of them offending me at the place. On the 16th, they did it again, and I started talking to them. That was in the living room area, and I can't talk to them directly, so I got to talk at them, not to them, sort of like while they're on the side somewhere. And so they could, and as soon as I fall asleep, they come out and they start rummaging through my stuff, and they'll start reading it. You know, they go through my food, go through my clothing. They cut open my jackets. You know, they take a knife and they cut it. Same way they cut here. This is like the third time that they bled me. Right. This morning I was asking the police department whether or not there was another place that I can transfer to where these people don't have they don't have the authority or the liberty to just come into the place, since they're not homeless, to judge me. And the police department's response was, nope, we don't have anywhere, because most of these hits are accompanied by, and they're accompanied by the police, and they are protected by the police, Portland police. So Portland police is doing me a disfavor, and I can't run out of the state, because every time I run, they only bring me right back. They gave me the threat of, you can't leave the West Coast. You leave the West Coast and you die. This was my reminder and my warning to them. So, my reminder and my warning to them, because I'm dealing with all the levels on that place, pretty much everywhere I go. And I can't really do much in terms of response, because they're not directly in front of me, talking to me and dealing with me. They're behind closed doors. And so the hits are not like somebody walking up to me and just decking me in the face. They send people in there to wear an orange outfit or a jacket. I don't respond to that because I don't have a clue what they're saying. And what they put in the minds of these people, I do not know. So how am I going to be in conversation with somebody and I don't know what they're saying? And we're not on the same page. And so their hits are not clear. I got to read into people's faces, and I don't know who I'm talking to and what I'm talking to them about. I don't know any of these people. They know everything there is to know about me, but I know nothing about any of them. And I'm talking about the representatives. So it's not a clean fight or a clean argument. And they're not willing to walk away. They want me to take this hit, and I don't know what this hit is. And I think it's just death. So yesterday, on the 18th, I was hit on the 20th. I was hit on the 16th. You saw how I responded by reminding them that Job was reduced and restored, Nebuchadnezzar was reduced and restored, and Israel was reduced and restored. And also asked the question, how can Romans, the series that we're going through, how can Romans help these people, the people that are in the background that are doing this, the people that are constantly hiding their faces. They want authority over me, and they want authority over the work that I do, but they don't want to submit to me directly. They don't want to submit to me as a minister. They want me to be the stepping stone in the subjugate. That's what I told the police department this morning. They want me to preach the Gospels, and then for MacArthur to take apparently they're recording everything I say and everything I do. I'm not sure what he's doing with the recordings, or where he's putting the recordings. And then afterwards, they're expecting me to go into the sex stores and have sex with males. And then they have it all set up as a government. And then they want me to take the hit afterward through whatever African woman, and it's African women, no other kind of women. And they want me to take the hit of being sexually assaulted by whatever African woman they send to the bed where I'm at. And then on top of it, cuts and piercings every night. So I'm not making an income because they won't open the door for employment. I'm not living in a home because they won't open the door for housing. I'm not involved in a church because they won't allow me to associate with any church unless I'm the subordinate. And whatever work I've done previously, they want to take credit for the work without pay, without acknowledgement, as if I was basically what they're communicating under the table is you're a slave and you need to submit or else it's a hit. That's just across the board. This is what they've been doing for 20 years, MacArthur and Franklin. And they've got the full support of the government. So yesterday, I spoke to them about whatever God has put on your plate. I gave them a gospel presentation. I spoke to them for about 2.5 hours, 3 different times. First time I went and used the restroom, spoke to them again, came back, used the restroom, preached to them again a 3rd time, and then they sent me a boy to, when I started preaching the last message, which was on truth and Trojan, this one here, when I started talking to them about, I guess it's called the Iliad and the Odyssey. It's the war between Troy and Sparta. And I used the Trojan horse as an example, and they were cutting down the gospel. And I said to them, well, a lot of you are practicing religions around this time, averting Christianity and the gospel, but what you're really dealing with is a Trojan horse. So I used the illustration of the Trojan horse and how it was given to Troy, or how Troy received it, and the end result of it being death, the destruction of the city of Troy, because they weren't expecting the men of Sparta to be inside of the horse and to set the city on fire. They killed the king. They pretty much destroyed, and this is where, what's his name? Achilles. That's when he got killed. It was during that war that he got killed. And I said to them, I used the illustration of the apple. Hold on. Oh, I don't have it here. But I used the illustration of the serpent and the fruit in the garden. The fruit was a Trojan fruit. To Eve, it looked desirable to make one wise, but when she bit of it, the poison information that was in it basically destroyed humanity. Today, you look at all of humanity, and what happens is that we all die, right? But it looked good to her. But though it looked good to her, it led to the death of Abel and then the death of Cain, and that whole generation passed away as a result of it, and now today we die. The result of it is this. You see all these caskets here, all right? And if you look at the caskets, you see these little stick figures inside of the caskets. Let me read you the name. The very first one here, all right, is supposed to be Gabriel's son, Jean Marie. This was me reminding them. The second one here is Tony Gaston. The third one here is Sophia, my own sister. When you open the page, all right, you can see them. These are all the people that have already been, been affected by death. We just buried George Bush Sr., Billy Graham, Jack MacArthur, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, because I specifically named those people because those are the groups that I'm dealing with. John McCain, Michael Duclairon, my own father, and Sylvanor, my mother's husband. So that's the group, and those are the caskets. And I was trying to communicate to them that the fruit led to death, and it's a Trojan horse. It was a Trojan. It was a false gift. It was something that was going to lead to their doom. Right? It's like me giving you water, but inside of it is cyanide. I gave them the illustration of sleeping. What was her name with the 7 dwarfs? I can't remember her name. God, it's sort of like a fairy tale. The fairy tale of the girl being given the fruit, and she ate the fruit, bit into it, fell asleep. But the fruit looked good to her, right? I think it's like Snow White and the 7 Dwarf or Sleeping Beauty, one or the other. Again, the fruit looked good. She ate it and she fell asleep. And when she woke up, it was like 100 years later. So again, that was a Trojan horse. Sex is a Trojan horse. I said to them, sex is a Trojan horse. And they sent me a youth. They sent me like 3 or 4 youths. The oldest one probably being about 17. Pissed off, called me out as a nigger and called me out as a homosexual and got in my face and was just, get the fuck out of here. And I mean, it was I just took a step back and let him speak whatever he needed to speak. He was wearing an orange jacket and he was pissed. So he was like, man, you need to get out of here with all of this. And so he walked away. So I told him that, talked about the Trojan horse, the fruit being a Trojan horse, sex, world religion was a Trojan, sort of like a Trojan horse, these religious groups will have these statues, and inside of the statue is nothing but a demon, right? Receiving the worship that God, that was meant for God. So anyway, I spoke to them about that for a little bit, and then afterward, Melinda was like, well, you need to go to Fantasy. First she said 122nd Street, and then because of time, they switched it to Fantasy, which is on, I guess, 30th. And they had it all set up. So of course I go there to perform, and I go to City Team Ministries to get food, and of course I completely come out because I have to defend the fact that the issue is that the church, according to Paul, 1 Corinthians 9:14, is that those who preach the gospel can get their living from the gospel. Well, in this scenario, they're making sure that I don't get my living from the gospel. They're making sure that the only thing I get is gay ads. And then, of course, using it against me, the gay ads, accusing me of being a homosexual when this is all of their setup. This is their hits. And then, like I've explained to you a few minutes ago, and then for me to get hit by African women, the Haitian women that they have, that they bring into the establishment, where they're giving me sex and they're giving me hits and cuts and piercings. So it's painful. But initially, last night, they got really pissed off at the sermon and what I had to say. They don't even care about what I'm saying. They don't care what I'm saying. They don't care if it applies or not. They don't care if it's truth or not. They're on this path of destruction. And and they're there to discipline me, and they're gonna do it, They don't care. On the 18th, I had a similar experience. where it basically, and this is, I want to show you something. This is what I was holding yesterday when I was outside of the mall. I was using this here, this bag. It was raining. Inside it says, "Thank you for your gift." Size, "Thank you for your gift." In the back it says, "Thank you for your gift." And in the front, it had "Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, 2018. Local preacher need cash contribution. Thank you." Jesus is the mystery revealed in Romans 1 through 16, which is the series I just started. So far, I've preached using this bag on the 19th, "Baby in a Manger." On the 20th, "What has God put on your plate?" and "The Children of Truth." Yesterday I used it. This was what I used, and the day before I used it. So I've been using it all, for the last couple of days during the week to see if the church will make a contribution using this. They're not very supportive in Portland. None of the churches are. If anything, they're distant, and they don't want nothing to do with me. They never ask me for my testimony when they see me on Sunday mornings. They never talk to me about the persecution or the videos that are online. Whatever John MacArthur says is what they embrace. Anything else that I've ever said, I'm not up the race. I think that the issue is that I'm not a white man, so as a non-white man, my words mean absolutely nothing, whether church or state, whether government or any establishment. In other words, it doesn't matter if it happened or not. If I get raped right there in front of everybody, it doesn't make a difference. If I get hit, who gives a shit, right? That's just how it goes. On the 19th, this is what I wrote on the 18th. This right here. You see it? Because every hit goes back to these things that I write, and it's taking place in the shelter. Right? It's taking place in the shelter. It's taking place in the streets. So whether I'm in the streets or I'm in the shelter, I'm in the apartment, wherever I'm at, it's that's all they care about. Why? Because I won't assume the position of a Negro slave. I won't assume the position of a Negro subordinate, and these people will not stop assuming the position of authority over me. They can only do it behind closed doors. They can't do it to my face, because to my face, it's going to end up being more than a cut. It'll end up being me getting shot and killed, or me stabbing one of them to death. So D. Franklin and this woman have been hiding for the last 27 years. Since I've been in the West Coast, MacArthur is not surfacing. They're all hiding behind the gun. It was pointless for me to get a naturalization certificate to live in this country, because the naturalization certificate has basically led to nothing. There's no protection of the law. None of the laws protect. So anyway, on the 18th, I woke up excruciating pain again, and I dealt with the issue with Zoe. She's one of the workers there, and the argument is that, what's the point of calling? I wanted to call the police and file a report, and she says, for what? They're not going to come here and take a report. That they're not going to, there's no proof, right? She looked at my feet and she says, there's no proof that you were pierced. There's no proof that you were hit. So what's the point, right? What's the point of you calling it in? Just go afterwards, at 5:30 or 5 o'clock when you leave here, just go directly to the precinct and file the report. Meanwhile, the question that I asked, and I wrote this down, and I also preached it on that day on Main Street, and I think it was 3rd and Main Street, is why the disciplinary action while incapacitated, right, against the violation of an unspoken, unwritten law against me as an African, as a Haitian, as a foreigner, or even as a homeless Christian preacher. Why the disciplinary actions? Because they'll judge and they don't explain why they're judging. They hit and they don't explain why they're hitting. They destroy my property without explaining why they're destroying my property. So there's no reason for it, and it's happening every single night. So it's not just, once and then that's it. It's every night, every opportunity that they get. And it's like, well, that's why we came into the West Coast. You know, Gabriel comes from New York, comes all the way over here, just to give me oral sex and just to judge me. For what? Right? For what? Oh, I forgot it this morning. But anyway, so that was the main question that I had for them as an establishment, as a Willamette, as a Walnut Park shelter, and also as a community who has taken part in judging, right? Because I walk out of there, I'm right back in the streets again, and it's cold outside, it's wet, it's rainy, and nobody wants to sleep in a doorway, right? And my applications for housing have been rejected or they're on hold. So if even with the money that I have, I can't rent and I can't buy. When I've tried buying Ford, not Ford, but mobile homes, they up the price, or they lie and they say they don't have any for sale. So it's either they raise the price twice the amount, or they lie and they don't allow me to have it. So it's almost like they're doing it. Well, it's not almost like, but they're doing it on purpose. Okay, and being by myself, they make it even that much more difficult. And none of the local government officials, they're all kissing MacArthur's ass. That's basically what it comes down to it, because they can and they can get away with it, right? What can I do to rebuttal against them? Absolutely nothing, right? So the first question I asked was, why the disciplinary actions while I'm incapacitated? In other words, if you're going to discipline me, why isn't it that you're sending the police to arrest me with accusation of something that I did wrong in the community or society or to somebody directly, right? Why is it that I'm always being judged while I'm asleep? That doesn't make any sense. Why is she always unzipping my pants to suck my dick? That's disgusting to begin with. That's humiliating. That's embarrassing. And because I don't have any friends in the country, I don't have any friends in the community or in the church, then MacArthur allows her to get away with it. And so does the police department, who stands against the gospel and who stands against the church. So it's why the disciplinary action, and everything that they do is behind closed doors, right? They hide and they shout out and they say things. Wife. They're assuming the position that Gabriel is my wife. She's not my wife. She's my enemy. They'll insult me in passing, right? So why the disciplinary action while incapacitated against the violation of an unspoken, unwritten law? In other words, what you're accusing me of is not something that's in the Constitution. It's not something that's in the Bible. It's not a law that I violated, that's acknowledged by the American government or the American church or the American people. It's not written and it's not spoken. So it's assumed. It's this assumed position of you're the black man and you fall in line behind me because I'm a white person. So that's the assumed position of, we're going to hit you with this and we're going to hit you with that because we can. Anyway, let me keep going here. The second question I asked is, who is the offended? I have no idea who it is that I've offended, right? The law, these disciplinary actions against me while I'm sleeping, is based on the violation of an unspoken law, unwritten law. Nobody's ever come to me with law and said, this is where you've erred, right? And if in passing they would have said, hey Kevin, if you do that again, we're going to judge you, I would have been like, if I do what again? They're not even addressing what the issue is. I don't know what I'm being judged for. And here's the second question I asked is, who is offended? Who is it that I'm offending? Am I offending? Who is assuming the position of the disciplinarian? So who is it that I'm offending? I have no idea, right? Why the disciplinary actions? I have no idea. Who is the assuming position? Who is assuming the position of disciplinarian? In other words, one person is saying, I'm taking offense at this. Another person is saying that you violated our laws, our understanding. I don't know what they're talking about. These people are homosexuals. These people are Klan. These people are, I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know what the issue is. So the question is, who is assuming the position of disciplinarian? Who is it that's coming in and literally hitting me like a child to discipline me in front of the American people, right? Is it the police department, which I've heard that they were the ones doing it? Is it the Klan? Is it the LGBT? Is it the Master Seminary again? Is it the Franklins? Is it TPI staff? Who am I dealing with here, right? Who's the disciplinarian? Literally, who is saying in their minds, we have the right to judge you as what? You know, who is it? There, as I'm talking to you, you can hear the mumbling, you're not leadership. Who is it? I have no idea. I don't know who's saying it. It's a European man's voice. I don't know who he is, and I don't know where he's from. Apparently, he doesn't know the Constitution, that people have the freedom of religion in this country. And so, so who is it? I don't think they know me, and I know them. They know me outside, but they don't know me. You know, they know of me that I'm a preacher, but they don't know me personally. And they take offense, right? If it was Graham or Palau or those people that are recognized by the race, then, you know, Greg Laurie, the people that are on the stage and on television, it would be fine. But being that I'm not staged and I'm not televised and I'm not on the radio, then they take offense, personal offense, you know, like I'm doing something against them directly. So who is saying in their mind, we have the right to judge you as a preacher, we have the right to judge you as a Haitian, we have the right to judge you as a naturalized citizen, we have a right to judge you as an African, as a homosexual, we have the right to judge you as this for this, right? We have the right to discipline you as this for this, which is where a lot of people get killed. Earlier this morning, when I dealt with the issue again, I brought out the fact that it's not just an issue that I'm having, it's across the board. If you read Christian News, the newspaper, I don't have a copy of it here with me, but page after page, even in the front page, a missionary got killed with a spear, I think it was. Next page, same thing. Every single page, the church is either being stabbed, killed, arrested, imprisoned, beaten. They're damaging church property, and it's almost like we have God doesn't have a voice in America. God doesn't have a voice where he can use anybody to speak on his behalf, because as soon as a person says, thus saith the Lord, or Jesus is God, automatically you're the enemy, and these people want you killed. They want you destroyed. It's an offense. They don't want nobody correcting their immorality, and they don't want anybody addressing their immorality. And I'm not saying immorality done behind closed doors, but immorality where they're forcing themselves on you, or forcing African women on me, or telling me that I need to go to a sex store to have sex with somebody so that they can judge me and discipline me, and then turn around and charge me for the sex that they're calling me to have, and go into my bank account and removing the money. So it's like a catch-22 here. So those are the people that I'm dealing with. So that was question 1, 2, 3, 4. 3. And then here's another one. Whose unspoken, unwritten rule that have been violated? Who is it that's making up these rules? Right? Somebody obviously is making up these rules and is in agreement with a group of people, and then now they're applying them to me. And I'm not aware of the fact that they're applying them to me, because they're not coming to me and saying that I've violated their unspoken and unwritten rule, right? And as a result of it, now they have to take disciplinary actions. They're not straight about it. They're in the back. And do you know what's in the back? You don't know what's in the back unless you go back there and look or talk to the people that are back there, right? That was the fourth question. Number 5 is, why is my Christian naturalized American liberty being challenged and judged by hidden disciplinarians, right? Why is my Christian naturalized American liberty? Now, the question is, my liberty is being disciplined. In other words, I preach the gospel, I get disciplined. I look for a job, I get disciplined. I enter into a church on a Sunday morning, I get disciplined. I associate with Europeans on any level, even the homeless level. I get disciplined. I watch television or I watch a movie, I get disciplined. And it's like, what is this shit? I feel like we're living back in slavery days, days that I didn't even know existed. You know, it's like any little thing you do, it's, right? So that was a 5th question. And then 6th question is, who is saying in their mind, we have the right to judge you as for this? What is this? What's the reason? They're still talking back there. I don't know who it is. Anyway, so I preached to them on 3rd and Main Street. Here's another question I asked them: is if America is in the front, governed by these written and unspoken laws, and all I did was scribbled some couple boxes and then wrote the laws on them. You can see them right here. All right. That is the Holy Bible, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Emancipation, the ORS laws, the TPI shelter rules, the Housing and Leasing Agreement, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission laws. We have laws for everything, right? Laws for guns, but then these people use the gun to control everything. You go into the Bill Clinton building, you got to deal with the gun before you get into the building. You go into the Barack Obama building, you got to deal with the gun before you get into the Barack Obama building. You go into the City Hall, you got to deal with the gun before you get inside of City Hall. You go to the Multnomah County Courthouse, you got to deal with the gun before the Multnomah County Courthouse. Pretty much everywhere in the government section of the city, before you can get to the government or to the what's going on inside of the building, you got to deal with the gun. But yet outside they have a law stating that you cannot carry a revolver. Yet to deal with the government is to deal with the gun itself, right? So we've got a country here. It's like, is the country under government or is the country under God? Those that are under God are getting hit by those under the gun, right? Which is the government. Gun, government, God, gospel, right? So then I asked them the question: it's either you're under God and His gospel, or you're under the government and their gun. And so that's how the sermon ended. Is it the gospel or the gun, the government or God, right? What are we dealing with here? So if America is governed by these written and spoken laws, right, in the front, because on the surface you have these laws, right? Hold on a second here. I left my Bible behind. Oh well. So all of these laws that we have, right, are in the front. But so then the second part of the question is, who is advocating the problem that we have today, right? The problem that we have today with these cultural, unspoken, and unwritten, unacknowledged laws. Right? Who's advocating this? Who is advocating the problem that we have today? We have a problem, and the problem is that somebody is in the back advocating these unspoken, these cultural, unspoken, unwritten, unacknowledged laws. In other words, they're holding us accountable to laws that we're not even aware of, right? Standards that we're not aware of, right? And these laws are based on the LGBTQ understanding, the Klan understanding, the African understanding, because African American people, as a culture, as a community, function differently than that of the LGBT, which is completely different than that of the Klan, which is completely different than that of the slave understanding, right? Because slaves had a certain understanding that foreigners don't have today. The homeless understanding, the British settlership understanding. So these laws, these rules of cultural engagement, right? These laws, these rules of cultural engagement, this is how people in this country are engaging with one another, without it being written down, without it being spoken, without it even being acknowledged. You just have to know it from the top of your head. This is what it is. I'm a foreigner. How am I supposed to know any of this, right? So, and the question is, who's advocating it? Who's advocating this problem, right? It's a problem to me because there's no resolution, right? There's no resolution because these people are coming from different communities, right? So there is a Klan community, there is a British settlership community, there is a homeless community, there is a LGBTQ community, these different communities, right? And it's a problem for some people because people don't know how to function in their dealings with those people when they come out, right? It's like taking a person from the LGBT and bringing them into the New Testament church. Completely different mentality, right? But yet they are judging us by the standard of their living, and people are not aware of their standard of living because it's not written, it's not spoken, and to be quite frank, it's not even understood. And yet, when they communicate these unspoken, unwritten laws and unacknowledged laws, it's through gestures, it's through voice intercom, it's through color. The color of things, you know, they wear a certain color. You're supposed to understand that it represents something, and when you don't know what it represents, you get hit, right? So they're communicating to you these unspoken, unwritten, and unacknowledged laws through gestures, voice intercom, color, word acronym, mind reading, right? The assumption of authority by intimidation, control environment. That's another way that you can walk into an environment and don't even realize that you're in a controlled environment. And it may look free, but what the problem is your lack of awareness of what's controlling these people, what's bringing them in, what's making them do what they do, say what they say, go in the direction that they're going. Control environment, manipulation. A lot of times, foreigners are being manipulated. Manipulation, setups. You walk into a place and you think this is how everything is every day. No, it's a setup. You don't even realize that. No boundaries or limitations, right? These people exercise no boundaries as to whether or not they can hit you, hurt you, steal from you, set you up, bleed you, right? Cut you, pierce you, do whatever it is. Cut downs and reduction. They cut you down, they reduce you, they will sabotage your property. They'll sabotage your clothing, sabotage your computers, they'll sabotage whatever they can get their hands on to reduce you, right? They give you clues and hints, and of course they apply disciplinary actions and hits. Verbal warnings are constant, daily. Violence, assaults, threats, the sabotaging of property, insults, control to sexuality. You don't get to choose your own girlfriend. You don't get to choose your own wife. You don't get to choose anything. It's whoever they give you. You know, they throw a bone at you and you better take it. You don't take the bone, you get hit. That's how they think. But the question is, which group are you dealing with that's thinking of you that way? That's applying these disciplinary action against you. You don't know who you're dealing with. You know, nobody comes out and says, well, I'm the Ku Klux Klan, or I'm the gay community, or I'm a slave owner. They throw you one of these things that I've just listed to you. You know, sometimes they're overbearing. They have alternative motives, right? They put one hand in the front, but in the back they've got a rod, you know? And they're hidden in the back with no evidence that they're even there, you know? So it's a long, drawn-out thing, and I don't think this is a process to make anybody into a pastor. I don't think this is a process to make anybody into a Christian. I think this is one of the most deteriorating ways of reducing someone than actually accomplishing a New Testament work on God's behalf. I don't see God in any of this, which is my very last question, right? Number 9, I asked, is it the Irish, British, English versus the American, right? Is it the island versus the continent? because you know that there's a division. And going back to the Declaration of Independence time, those who sided with England and those who sided with the settlers who decided to stay and give us a constitution and a government, right? So could it be that this conflict, the persecution, all of the persecuting that's coming against me from American whites is coming from those who still stand with the side of the king, with the side of Britain, with the slavery, and the Klan, rather than the Constitution that frees the slave, and the government that says we're allowed to live as equals in the country. So is it the British, Irish, and the English, or is it the American? They're against each other. The two islands. I asked the 10th question: where do the Haitians come into this fight, this controversy, or this family feud? For power, control, authority. Over American citizens living under the written and the spoken law, right? So these are questions here. Right. And then number 11, why are European Americans two-faced, with their hearts divided between the former British Empire life and the now European American continent life? Yes, on old slavery, but no on new equality, but only as facts. Did you understand that? Why are European... So this is the picture that I've drawn. Okay. They're two-faced. Right? They're two-faced. On one side, their hearts are divided between the former British Empire life when they first came into the country and the now European American continent life, right? Which is constitutional. So they're stuck in between the two lives. The past, where they had complete power and control, and the present, where their complete power and control has been reduced and diminished. And then finally, the last question is, where is God in all of this? Okay, so that was the sermon that I gave to them on the 19th. This is from the 19th. This is on the 20th, right? And this is on the 16th. So I've been doing a lot of preaching in Portland, but unfortunately the preaching is not amounting to anything. So I'm really wanting to leave Portland, but not having anywhere specifically to go. I'm really wanting to vacate out of here, take all of my stuff, but there's nowhere to go. And wherever I go, the hits and the hurts and the bleeding and the homosexuality will continue. It's not my homosexuality. It's the homosexuality of John MacArthur, Gabriel Franklin, Guy Franklin, and the U.S. government. And they are literally pushing it on me, not me sort of like, I'm not exactly sure. I guess that's how they turn foreigners into, that's how they reduce foreigners. And I'm at the butt of it all. So I would ask you to pray at this time, church. Pray that God will intervene somehow and step in, because I don't see where 2019, where anything is going to be accomplished here, and I don't know where to go. I told the police I can't go north to Seattle, south to California, or east to Boise, Idaho, right? So I'm not sure where to go from here. Everything is in storage. Everything is locked up. And they've purposed their minds not to let me in and not let me through, not to let me back up again, right? I'm not sure. It's like this drawn out conspiracy that's exhaustive, literally. And the churches have basically just, that's the position of the church. And there's nothing I could do about it, right? Protestant preachers and police department officers, instead of assisting, they're hurting. I'm in pain. Even as I'm talking to you, I'm in pain. Anyway, I'm going to get going here. And let me say a little prayer, and then I'm going to turn this off. And I'll upload it. And we'll take it from here. I I don't know what else is going to happen this week, but it's been a rough week, and I'm not sure how the year is going to end, right? What else is coming this way? Father, I pray for all of these things that I have brought up, that you have put on my plate as I've spoken to the American people. I pray, Lord God, that you will allow me to keep my faith and, like Job, be strong and courageous and not lose heart, despite the fact that there are many enemies against the church, many enemies against the Haitians and African Americans. These people have dealt and endured much suffering in this land. I pray, Father, that you will be with them. Pray that you will discipline those who need to be disciplined, judge those who need to be judged, and take those out of ministry that needs to be taken out of ministry because they're hurting the church. Pray for my situation here in Portland, that you would put an end to it, and that I can continue with my life in Christ. Pray for your protection. Pray that you would remove those that need to be removed and correct those that need to be corrected and keep those that need to be kept. In Jesus' name, amen. So, church, if you are watching this video, do not, just bear in mind that when you pray for us globally, because we are under heavy persecution and there's a lot of hatred against us. Some people don't finish seminary to go into the clergy. Some die prior to finishing. We may fill in the application, take a couple classes, but as soon as they know our hearts don't belong to the community of sinners, we're done. They remove us. Like I told the police department this morning, it began under Bill Clinton's administration, and now here we are 4 administrations later, and I'm right in the pit of fire. I'm right in the pit of fire with Trump and his administration, and I haven't even touched those. So keep us in mind, all of us that are out here living and doing ministry. All right.